5 years after the fake with the swine flu, the World Health Organization WHO beats alarm. A fatal virus again threatens the world. This time it is called Ebola. Ebola is not new. Since 1976, Ebola rages for 1 year, then it is invisible for years. Death count within the affected 50 to 95%. Epidemiologically, extremely illogical. The more of its hosts a virus kills and the faster it does this, the more it hinders its own distribution. Everywhere where Ebola appears, the physical situation of the population, as well as the supply with meals and clear water, are extremely problematic. In Sierra Leone, almost every 6th child dies within the first 12 months of his life. The results of poverty are the #1 cause of death in Africa, but Ebola determines the headlines. But have the victims really have been killed by a virus? PCR or antibody tests for Ebola are not calibrated and respond to many diseases. One could presumably prove living and increase capable Ebola viruses also in a meatball which has been fried for 12 hours. The Ebola virus is swine flu revisited, just a fake. In charge of the alleged proofs of the Ebola virus are the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, Atlanta. The present CDC Director, Dr. Tom Frieden, is a former officer of the EIS. This is the Epidemic Intelligence Service of the United States. The members of the EIS have ranks with military names like Major. These medical biological agents pass through a specialized training lasting 2 years, and the CDC states they are worldwide in use. Therefore, there'll never be a pandemic behind which the USA are not. Every worldwide making of panic in front of killer viruses goes on the account of CDC and EIS. The USA are behind the medicine which allegedly so terrifically helps against Ebola. This well-known German magazine writes concerning TKM Ebola. It was developed by the Canadian company Techmira, financed by the Pentagon. What does the US War Office have to do with a poverty illness? After all, the Pentagon is not famous for healthcare in developing countries. TKM Ebola is based on greases in nanosize. Nanoparticles can penetrate well into cells. This way it is smuggled into cells, where it then manipulates the human DNA. Techmira writes, its products like TKM Ebola have the potential to treat a large number of diseases by silencing genes. There is no proper clinical study on TKM Ebola. This means the distribution to Ebola sufferers is experimental genetic engineering at the living person. Is the panic of Ebola just a setup for field tests with a gene silencing medication? Which genes does the US War Office want to be silenced? ZMapp is the other medicine which celebrates alleged success just against Ebola. ZMapp is an antibody cocktail produced by MAP Biopharmaceuticals. A part of the manufacturing process is carried out at Kentucky Bioprocessing KBP. The project was financed, also this of course mere chance, the Pentagon. On the KBP website reported Kerry van der Linden about Ebola treatment experiments on apes. Van der Linden is press agent of the Medical Research Institute of the US Army, and this is just where the ZMapp experiments of the monkeys have been made. Regarding this, It is not really surprising that the Pentagon has developed one of the Ebola tests, and the CDC, they hold a patent on the Ebola virus. Ebola, a pandemic made in the USA with the help of the WHO? Responsible for Ebola within the WHO, the same suspects that helped the pharmaceutical mob making extraordinary profits with the swine flu, Margaret Chan and Keiji Fukuda. Fukuda is an officer of the EIS, he was a major. This is not a conspirational theory, the CDC themselves say so. And what about the Ebola cases within doctors in Ebola quarantine stations? In the isolation wards they work in thick rubber suits under tropical conditions. Consequence: dehydration and loss of minerals, leading to inflammation hurts, which make Ebola tests react positive. What is Ebola in the advanced stage? Having a temperature and severe bleedings. Scurvy, a massive lack of vitamin C, is having a temperature with bleedings of the gums as main symptoms. Many intestinal diseases consist of fever and bleedings of the gut. After a pandemic is facing the next pandemic, a new killer virus threatens the world all years and boosts the sales of the pharmaceutical multinationals. It was high time to spread a little panic again 5 years after the swine flu. Does the world not have other health problems the WHO could take care of instead of Ebola? The poor countries suffer from water contaminated with feces and poison, and they suffer from hunger. Instead of starting here, the poor countries get vaccines and soon, presumably, a field test with a medicine that was made to silence genes. But one can never remove the consequences of poverty by vaccinations and silencing genes.